Hello. So we have got last question on inference type. Again, I'm not going to talk about the question stem again. It's so repetitive. This is going to be the same for this type. Let's go ahead and read the text now. Among social animals that care for their young, such as chickens, macaque monkeys, and humans, newborns appear to show an innate attraction to faces and face-like stimuli. So what's happening over here? So we are talking about these social animals that care for their young. So in that case, the newborns, they show an innate attraction towards faces and face-like stimuli. So that's not external. That's something that they already have, right? So they have an innate attraction towards faces and face-like stimuli. And for whom we are talking about the social animals who care about their young, right? Let's read ahead. Elizabeth and her colleagues used an image of 3 black dots arranged in the shape of eyes and a nose or mouth to test whether this trait also occurs in testudo tortoises, which live alone and do not engage in parental care. So these people, Elizabeth and her colleagues, what are they trying to figure out? They're trying to figure out if this kind of an attraction is also visible in these tortoises who basically live alone and they don't engage in parental care. So they don't really care for their young. So what happens in this case for the newborns, right? Let's read ahead. They found that tortoise hatchlings showed a significant preference for the image. So what did they find? Surprisingly, they found that the newborns, the tortoise hatchlings, they did show a preference for the image. That was basically the 3 black dots arranged in the shape of eyes and nose, which looked like face, so face-like stimuli, right? So they did show an attraction or preference towards that image. So what does this suggest? This is something contradictory to what's being told to me in the first sentence, right? So ideally, as per that statement, they shouldn't have shown the attraction for the face-like stimuli because they live alone and they don't engage in parental care. They don't care for their young. But surprisingly, the newborns in this case, they showed the attraction. So what can we really conclude as per this information? What can all of this suggest? Let's go ahead and look at our options and try to eliminate some. A. Face-like stimuli are likely perceived as harmless by newborns of social species that practice parental care, but as you know what, I want to stop here. Now, till here, face-like stimuli are likely perceived as harmless by newborns. Nowhere in the text did they talk about the face-like stimuli or the faces to be harmful or harmless. It was never about being, something related, or it was never about it being dangerous. It was more about the liking or the attraction towards the face or the face-like stimuli, right? So why are we discussing about it being harmless? Why are we discussing how newborns perceived those faces or the face-like stimuli as being harmless? It is not something that we are concerned about. So A is definitely out. So I don't want to read this long option and then ultimately eliminate it because of this word over here, right? So as I read this, I identified that, it being harmless or harmful is not really the context here. So let's just eliminate this right away. Let's go to B now. Researchers should not assume that an innate attraction to face-like stimuli is necessarily an adaptation related to social interaction or parental care. So, in the first sentence, researchers did come to a conclusion that, when the social animals care for their young ones, the newborns, they show an innate attraction to faces and face-like stimuli. Right? So they tried to create a relationship between caring for the young ones and showing the attraction towards faces and face-like stimuli, which ultimately in the text went wrong, right? That was proved to be incorrect because these tortoise hatchlings, they did show some kind of a preference towards the face-like stimuli, which proves what? It proves that researchers should not assume that an innate attraction, that there's an innate attraction towards face-like stimuli because of the social interaction or the parental care. There is no such thing, right? So no such assumption should be made. It kind of makes sense as of now, but we still have to go ahead and eliminate our options. Let's look at C. Researchers can assume that the attraction to face-like stimuli that is seen in social species that practice parental care is learned rather than innate. We're talking about newborns, first of all. How in the world are they supposed to already learn being a newborn, right? So it has to be innate, if anything. Now D says, newly hatched testudo tortoises show a stronger preference for face-like stimuli than adult testudo tortoises do. Now this comparison is totally irrelevant, is completely out of scope. Where is this comparison coming from? The text is not talking about it. I don't know where is it coming from, right? So this is definitely out. The comparison between the newborns the newly hatched testudo tortoises and the adult testudo tortoises doesn't make sense at all whatsoever. So very clearly I can say that B is the right option. I will go ahead with this as my correct answer for this question.